Nick Moore, who is the founder of Interview-ENTR200.wmv and is a student here at Purdue. So we're interviewing for our entrepreneurship presentation.
I kind of just take everything as a learning experience, you know. I mean, it was a really interesting way that I got involved in Hungry Boiler. Some friends of mine started a similar aspect of the website. So Hungry Boiler has a search tab, and we list every menu for every restaurant in town. And we try to keep that to be the most accurate resource for the restaurants in West Lafayette anywhere on the internet, so that you know that you can come there and trust our content. So what these guys at Penn State did was they started a menu guide, and it just listed every menu for every restaurant in Penn State. And we thought that there were some other things we could add to that to make it better. Obviously, the online ordering feature was one of the #1 things. So I was glad that things worked out and we were able to begin growing the business. Yeah, 100%. Both my mom and my dad have been entrepreneurs at some point in time in their life. I got a really strong influence as a kid. My dad owned a real estate company, and I had the opportunity to go in there and kind of immerse myself in the culture at his office and spend time there and kind of see how things were, you know, interacting during the day-to-day. So that had a strong influence on me as a kid to want to, you know, grow up to be my own boss and run my own office. Absolutely. Well, it was just the timing kind of just continued to add up, you know. So I got in touch with some older friends of mine that were doing a similar thing, and then I had another buddy who also kind of had an entrepreneur mindset. We collaborated a little bit on the project, and you know, it was interesting because I'd never written a business plan before. I'd never went into an investor meeting to try to, you know, sell something in order to get the capital to, you know, start this business. And I think that the really important thing was that, you know, you have to instill faith in the people that you're talking to. Even if you go in and you pitch the business project, you know, to perfection, if they don't have faith in you as the entrepreneur that's going to power it and be the one that's willing to put in the late nights or the early mornings to make it work, you know, that can definitely hurt you. So from the very beginning, I guess you could say, in some ways, I started developing relationships similar to what, you know, I operate off of now with the restaurant owners. So that was a really cool experience. Obviously, having your legal standpoint in check is always of the most important, because it's one thing you mess up, you know, it could cost you really big, maybe even your whole business. So a lot of outside advice. Really fortunate to have a family full of people that have been in business for a long time and kind of help me see the path and help me stay contained, because I'm one of those people that I get going on something, I gain a lot of momentum, I get energy, and it's important, you know, as a young businessman that I listen to those guys that are a little bit wiser than me and have probably been down my road a few times. The gears in the background were turning almost a year in advance before we ever even started to look for capital, because we had to put together, you know, the things that we were trying to sell in terms of the technology, the guys that, you know, that help continually evolve the technology, the guys that are working on our mobile app, for example. You know, you go into it with, you know, almost as like a thought tank, and you bounce ideas around and you soundboard a little bit, and then you look at people that are good at what they're good at. I didn't like sit down and write the code for Hungry Boiler. That's not what I do, but I understand marketing and sales very well, and that's where my passion comes in. So for the guys that actually could, you know, they have the capabilities to actually create the technology and write the code, I was able to tell them a perspective from a marketing standpoint that will allow us to be able to really sell the product and make it appealable to college students and people that are, you know, a primary user base. Well, in terms of the marketing plan that was implemented here at Purdue, I came up with the majority of that by myself. I did have friends, like I said, at Penn State who had already began to develop the technology, and they'd already had a couple years of marketing their website. And I also had a friend in Bloomington that had done the same thing. Was actually the guy that introduced me to the guys at Penn State. So between those two websites, I guess they gave me a good protocol of, you know, what not to do, things that didn't work for them, and then it was like, you know, hey, you can be creative, you can go out and you can you can learn what else not to do, or maybe you can learn one thing that's going to really help all of us. So that was the major core that I was operating off of in the beginning. My plan was to show exuberance and enthusiasm and let these people know that even though I had a long way to go on selling the project and a lot to learn about business in general, that my passion and determination carried me a really long way, and that I would learn and evolve as the process continued. So I would say that would have been the number one thing that I went into those meetings, just try to have a really positive attitude and make them realize that it's on my shoulders. The relationships are actually my specialty. That's like my favorite aspect of running Hungry Boiler. There's a lot of really cool restaurant owners in town. In the beginning, I was nervous. I would walk in, I wouldn't know who I was going to talk to. I didn't know how their systems work within their, if you take it as it is, like the restaurant is their office. For some of these restaurant owners, you have a couple different types of restaurant owners. Some are there all the time, and they're the reason that their restaurant has got to the level that it is. And there are other restaurants that are managed from afar, and I have more phone conversations and emails with those guys. So the dynamic of each one of those relationships is awesome. It's really cool, and I've learned from each one of those, because Hungry Boiler truly is a partnership with every single one of the restaurants we work with for online ordering, and it's important that we display that partnership in the best possible way to people, especially students, when they go to order food. Well, I don't know that I would say that I made any mistakes that I wish I could change, because obviously I'm glad that we're off to an incredible start. This is our second year in business, and I still see this as a business that's just in its infancy, that's going to still continue to grow for the next, hopefully 10 to 15 years. So there are things that I learned about the restaurant industry specifically that you wouldn't really know without having a ton of experience. I mean, rearview mirror, you can always look back on the past and find ways to improve, and that's the best part of it. Every single year is a new year. It's a new opportunity to change those little things from the year before. So yes, every year I look to review and obviously improve. My goal was I want to have an influence on everybody's life that goes to Purdue. I want when you guys leave West Lafayette and you go to the next city, or you go home, or wherever you're going to be stationed down the line, I want you to be like, man, you get on the internet and be like, wow, I wish I had Hungry Boiler here, wherever that's at. Something similar that can help you find new food and see specials in a convenient, easy process. So that was the major thing. I wanted to be a part of the culture and make my business as much about the experience here at Purdue as possible. That's why we try to participate in as many philanthropies as we can every year. We're involved with several different philanthropies. I'm really excited about some of the ones we're going to have going on here pretty soon. And I just like to make it fun. That's what I feel like college should be about: learning and having a good time. And I know that if I go out and do things that people are enjoying, then the marketing won't be the primary aspect. So anytime we go into an event, it's like, how can we make this a better event by being here? And make it not just being about just getting the word out about Hungry Boiler, but giving you something that maybe you're going to keep for the whole year, like the sunglasses, or maybe you're going to wear the t-shirt to the gym because you think it's cool or whatever. So that's the goal. Yeah, that's always the goal. Well, I've kind of always thought really big, so I think on a worldly scale, I want to do a business that isn't just city to city or state to state. I want to do something that can be expanded upon and built and improved. So I guess if anything, the only way my goals have really changed is that they just continue to expand. So I'm hopefully able to continue on that path. The most personally satisfying thing for me is to be able to just use my creativity. It's not someone else's mandated, project of the week or analysis of how I've done in the past. It's pretty much all on me to determine what I can do better or what I can do next. So that's the most gratifying thing for me. Well, my weakness is that I have a lot to learn. I'm young. I'm fresh out of the gate on all this, and I have a lot of just business knowledge in general to gain. My biggest strength is just my energy. I get up every single day excited to work on every boiler and to make it better. I approach every day as though the business will never be 100% complete. So I'm constantly looking at what I've done in the past and looking at what I'm considering in the future and how to make that better. So that's the direction that I take with it. In any time you're trying to introduce a new product, and people ask me about all kinds of things, and I always say that we compete with status quo. So what's to stop you from just pulling out your phone or whatever and calling up the restaurant? And maybe that's the mentality that people have been in. That in other before they came to West Lafayette, they probably had a phone number saved at their favorite restaurant. So we want to introduce a whole new style of how to order your food. I think of Hungry Boiler as doing what the drive-up window did for the fast food restaurant or the fast food industry. I feel like we're doing a similar thing for the delivery industry here in town, and I think that it's important to give people free things as an act of hey, we're out here having a good time. Hey, this is a cool thing that you're going to want to keep, and we're able to turn a profit after that. And obviously, we know how much to invest in every customer, and hopefully we're going to get that return over the course of time they're here. So that's it's a check and balance. Obviously, you give people $100 worth of free stuff, or say I give out iPads all the time, but the buzz that one thing like that can generate. So if you put a tangible dollar amount on what you're giving out, for example, you're giving out tickets to every single Colts home football game this season over Facebook and Twitter. So that was a big investment. That was a promotion that we worked with Subway way in advance. They got the ball rolling on that. We're fortunate enough to have them include us on that, to be honest. And it's a big investment, but of the 8 people that are going to win those tickets, how many people are each one of them going to tell? How many people on Facebook are going to see this? How much buzz can we really generate from that? And you basically determine a return on investment out of that and see if it makes sense. In some cases it does, in some cases it doesn't. I'd like to just tell people to do your due diligence. That's what I say every time I get asked this in one of these interviews, because I see and I hear about people that start a lot of businesses that they think they know all the facts, or they, and not that I'm being critical of that, because it's easy to get excited at the opportunity to run your business. It's an incredible thing. But to make sure you know the situation from a really